Good afternoon, all. My name is Shanza, and I, along with my other team member, is going to present the case study CS9D presentation today. In our case study CS9D, we examine an acute and timely ethical problem: the consequences of personal data profiling and exploitation by large technology companies like Meta, Google, and TikTok. Our case examine how these tech giants are collecting user data, at times without user knowledge, using it to create digital profiles that guides our choices, behavior, and even worldwide. And these innovations have triggered international concerns regarding ethics, privacy, and governance. From this analysis, we seek to highlight the stakeholder effect and suggest policy level and structural reform. So, in the next slide, that is the introduction and research context. Let us start with why it matters. The online platform of today are gathering intimate informations on billions of individuals across the globe: images, voice recordings, routines, even feelings. That information is employed to tailor content and add and guide what we feel, think, and do online. The issue is the most of these users do not have any idea how much they are being tracked and profiled. This is very concerning ethical problem, especially in the absence of strong international regulations. Scandals like Facebook Cambridge Analytics have already demonstrated just how much harm can be done through unethical use of data. The problem is only growing faster and faster, with AI becoming increasingly advanced. So, in the coming slide, that is research aim and objectives, we are driven by a particular objective to scrutinize critically the ethical consequences of the data gathering and profiling by the big tech corporations, and suggest ethics and regularity improvements. We derived four particular objectives from this objective. First, we examine how these corporations gather and profit from user information. Secondly, we examine legal and ethical concerns regarding consents and disclosure. Thirdly, we examine the actual impact, that is on the vulnerable consumers such as our children. Lastly, we provide concise and pragmatic recommendations on ethical managements of the data and electronic consumer protection. So, in the coming slide, that is the real world trigger. The most serious moral issue is harm to children. The algorithms of the YouTube and the TikTok platforms can promote harmful content to a user in response to the user's gender, age, or interest. Such as systems optimize what captures attention but not what is safe or is appropriate. This has resulted in devastating real world outcomes, such as kids engaging in deadly viral challenges or being shown graphic and distressing material. These harms show a failure in a platform accountability at a systematic level. The ethical issue here is not only visual, it's bodily and mental. The money making designs of the algorithm may be questioned when it comes when it causes suffering, particularly on the most vulnerable. And so, in the next slide, that is the stakeholder impact analysis. This problem concerns several stakeholders. To the users, particularly children, both privacy and freedoms are lost to a large extent. The majority of the individuals do not know how their information is being employed in a way to control their experience online. Governments are also put under the pressures to control these practices, but are often missing the tools or the knowledge. And moreover, the researchers too are disadvantaged with the less access to the data corporations use privately. The advertisers are helped by the profiling, but the calls for the complicity. The power imbalance between the companies and the general public is the norm, and there is no informed consent. Thus, a blatant infringement of the ethics. My next colleague will elaborate further. Thank you.
Hello. Uh, my name is Umar Shazad and I'm talking about problem farming. This raises the central management question: are technology firm legally but immorally acting? Who is to blame? The firm, the regulator, or the consumer? Most of the platforms are riding wide spaces of the law, making money of actions that consumers don't even grasp. There is a conflict between profit and corporate ethics. Firms are rewarded to harvest and sell as much data as they can without strong ethics, leadership, and external compliances. These practices will not abate. It's not a tech problem, it's a crisis of business, culture, governance, and public accountability. Now I'm talking about theoretical and ethical frameworks. In considering the ethical impact of data profiling, we utilize four theoretical models. First, assess the outcome of an action. Even as tech firms claims data helps tailor services, the overarching whys like data exploitation, loss of agency, and mental health risk surpasses the benefit contain ethics. Secondly, maintains individuals should be treated as an ends in themselves and never as means to an end. While being transformed into profit making data points, they are being used as tool, disrespecting this maximum. Third, stakeholder theory state that all the stakeholder must be considered uh, while deciding something. Here children, parents, civil society are all systematically excluded as stakeholders. So lastly, surveillance capitalism condemns the way human experience has been transformed into behavior data for making a profit with explicit knowledge or control of user. Now my next slide is um, uh, legal ambiguity and regular gaps. The regular environment is patchy and Europe GDPR has fairly robust privacy controls but is enforced slowly and piecemeal. Section 230 of the US provides immunity to platforms for the content they host and factor for how their algorithms work. China employs mass surveillance as a basic component of its system of rules. Consent is also suspect. Customers usually consent to long and terms they never even see. Dark patterns or dishonest interface design are what companies use to push customers into consenting to terms that strips away privacy. Now, my next slide is how data is collected and profiled. They gather information using cookies, app permissions, location tracking, and more sophisticated techniques like emotion tracking and face recognition. Apps like TikTok, Instagram track extensively the amount of time users are looking to anything or what they ignore. These informations are used to construct physical and behavior data sets to enable the companies to control attention and choice making. Now, my next slide is data collection and research approach. We conducted secondly qualitative research in our study. Our evidence was GDPR, case law, ICO enforcement reports, and white dog analysis such as Privacy International. We applies thematic analysis to spot emergent ethical red flags such as manipulative consent techniques, algorithm transparency, and user agency defects. Our study not only examined how business behave but set their behavior against ethical standards. Now I'm inviting my next colleague.
My name is Rehan Ali. My student ID is 2309751. My presentation slide is Key Data, Insight, and Ethical Red Flags. Our research uncovered several prominent examples exposing several moral transgression by top technology gains. One of them is Meta's 1.2 billion euro record fine imposed on it in 2023 for transferring user data from Europe to America in contravention of GDPR rules. It was not a solitary example. TikTok was also fined 12.7 million pound in the same year of processing children data without consent and safeguarding as necessitated. These incidents are of a large trend. A Pew Research poll show that more than 70% of users do not take the trouble of read the term of service. So-called agreement is thus all too often uniform and realistic. This loophole is used by websites on legal technologies rather than any real user comprehension. My next slide is external uncertainty and ethical risks. And now to the threat of the future. New technology also means new unknowns. The most immediately concerned one is perhaps facial recognition, which not only can be used for identification but also for surveillance and prediction of behavior. Likely emotion reading software is being taught to read facial micro expression of tone of voice. System that might be employed by the other manipulate responses without user realizing it. Meaning is an important risk is the increased deployment of deep fake and synthetic media. These can create elastic but false material doing damage to people and public trust. In an election, macro targeting via AI can also find influence voter based on emotion information. My next slide is barrier to ethical data reform. Despite the gravity of such risks, there has been slow ethical reform because some institutional obstacles stand in the way. The first is transparency algorithm by technology firms are turned into trade secret and independent examination is no longer feasible. Secondly, large firms bring intense lobbying pressure. The majority of such firms spend significant amount of money to lobby politicians and impose more regulations, particularly in the nation like the USA. Third, of the law across industries complicates coordination on the international level. For instance, while the EU has GDPR, the USA has fragmented weak privacy framework. And fourth, public digital literacy is extremely low. As such, users do not have any idea about the way their data is gathered, processed, and utilized. My next slide is comparative case Germany. Germany is a country that well demonstrates how ethical data stewardship work. It was one of the EU's best GDPR enforcer. It has data protection authorities that are free of political influence and have the responsibility to investigate and issue fines. Germany also include online rights, education within schools, teaching users about their data privacy from a young age. It also encompasses civic tech organization calling from transparency and ethical digital practice. Germany instance on public accountability is one aspect setting it apart. Let's present Muhammad Umar.
Hi, my name is Muhammad Umar Shehzad. My student ID number is 23110955. I'm going to present the final part of our presentations. I will be discussing South Korea's innovative approach to data ethics, followed by our short and long-term recommendations, and concluding with a strong ethical call to action. In my next slides, I will discuss the South Korea comparative case. South Korea created AI ethics test beds technology sites where new technologies are tested and evaluated for risk before they are released to society. This makes it possible to add ethical management from the survey start. It also promote public-private regulatory partnerships, which help to balance economics development and citizen security. Lastly, digital literacy is also at the center of the policy attention, where users' rights are included in the education curricula by incorporating legal provision in education and experimentation, South Korea present an integrated models that can be borrowed by other nations. In my next slide, policy recommendations that is short term, we advocate for four immediate steps. First, mandatory algorithm audit need to be implemented to investigate how two platforms are making their decision. The audits need to be open and carried out by the unbased regulators. The second, consent form need to be rewritten in simple language and with images so that actual understanding can be reached. Third, advertising to children and vulnerable adults need to be extensively curtailed. Fourth, government-sponsored digital literacy program need to be initiated to enable citizens to defend themselves online. These steps are feasible within a year and could dramatically reduce digital exploitation. The next slides, long-term structured recommendations. There are four structural changes in our long-term programs. First, the UK must set up a national algorithm ethics authority to oversee platform justice and transparency. The second, citizen must enjoy public interest in platform leadership through membership of oversight board. Third, must have international cooperations on a UN Digital Human Rights Charter that create ethical digital practice. Fourth, firms must have data ethics officers with actual enforcing power. These shifts can create a digital world in which privacy and agency are safeguarded by design rather than the afterthought. The last, conclusion and ethical call to action. In these slides, in short, unchecked corporate abuse of personal information threaten increasing individual rights, mental well-being, and democracy. We require cultural and policy change holding corporation accountable and putting power in the hand of users. Ethical transformation need to be achieved on several levels: local, national, and international. Bodies such as the UK ICO must implement fundamental changes and call for responsibility must become increasingly vocal. Ultimately, our message in this privacy is not a privilege, it is a basic human right and it must be defended. Thank you.